People are asking whether the country could be turned into a sort of greater Bosnia. In other words, a federalised state with institutionalised divisions. But even Bosnia has been rocked by anti-government sentiment. This next report takes a look at the challenges faced by the country's citizens seeking democracy.
Another demonstration in Sarajevo, in front of the presidential palace. Riots in February have given way to daily protests against misery, nationalism and corruption. This protest, the most important popular movement since the end of the war 19 years ago, has forced 4 local governments to resign.
From the end of the war until 2000, I was on unpaid leave with no income at all. Then I was laid off. That means I've had no money for 24 years. I've been demonstrating from the start. It's been more than 2 months now.
In the Serbian entity of Bosnia, the protests have been suppressed from the very beginning. In Sarajevo, the boundary line runs through the suburbs. Here and there throughout the country, there's discontent, as in Tuzla in the northeast. In a total of 13 towns, the locals have formed plenums, a form of direct democracy with no leader, in which people vote with a show of hands. The Tuzla plenum succeeded in putting a non-political government in place.
Plenums were created firstly because the links with representatives of the authorities have been broken. They have lost any kind of contact with the population and the civil society. The plenum aims to restore this link so that problems may be solved around the table instead of in the streets.
In Tuzla, an economics teacher now leads the government. But this case is isolated in the Bosnian administrative labyrinth, which includes 14 governments altogether on the local and national levels. The government of Tuzla is working in the town's cultural centre because protesters razed the administration buildings in February.
We, the new government of Tuzla, are resolved to build a partnership with the local plenum and the NGOs, associations of unemployed workers and business representatives. You should also note that we already have 2 government ministers who were directly nominated by the plenums.
But after 2 decades of fraudulent privatization, it will be a tough job to put Tuzla industry back on track.
It's now 14 months since we've been paid. The company owes a total of 27 monthly salary payments to every employee. Here we guard the factory 24 hours a day to prevent what happened in other factories. The theft of machinery, metal being sold for scrap, and looting. We just want to avoid the physical disappearance of our factory. In 1991, about 25,000 people were working in this industrial zone. Now there are less than 2,000 or 3,000.
Back in Sarajevo, Latifa prepares to go to another demonstration.
These politicians in whom we put our trust and who came to power thanks to our votes forgot from that very moment about the people who put them in place. That's why I go to the plenum. I believe that despite everything, we can solve the problems.
Bosnia's most famous musicians have rallied round the protesters.
Bosniaks are learning what democracy really is, the way to make use of it, how to apply it. What's happening now is a training, a warm-up for the time when we'll need to really put democracy in place on a broad scale.
For now, the political elite are buying time and ignoring the demonstrations. Between the discredited politicians and the poorly organized demonstrators, it's hard to predict who will win this power struggle.
Well, that was Focus. Up next here on France 24, the French President François Hollande has just wished Abdelaziz Bouteflika all the best as he begins his 4th term as Algerian president. But we'll be asking what the mood is like in Algeria itself following the official announcement of those election results. Do stay tuned for that in just a couple of minutes.